You have a dog behind you.
I know. I thought this would be a nice angle for everyone to see Scott's
Oh,
face. Oh,
that's Scotty the dog.
well, there he goes.
Oh, and now he's doing weird
Well,
things.
everybody that's watching this, enjoy. Enjoy the view.
I hope he does something like really weird. Hi, Scotty.
He's basically like a Gumby body.
How would that be?
Mm.
Mel,
Yes.
I want to talk to you about something today.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes. What is it?
Remember how everything in widowhood is complicated and there's no cut and dry and there's no black or white?
Yes.
And how I'm annoyed by that.
Yes.
Today, I want to talk to you about gratitude,
Okay.
AKA thinking positive, AKA finding the silver lining in everything.
This is a really good one.
This is a paradox.
Agreed.
Yes. And it's so hard. The reason that this was in my brain was in the Widow Wives Club, somebody posted about how do I find the positive in this situation? And everybody was like, there was a variety of responses, but a lot of people were like, well, you don't, you know, and it got me starting to think about this idea of toxic positivity and also how gratitude is actually really beneficial and helpful in all of life and especially in the depths of sorrow.
So both are valid.
Yes. What say you to my question?
Oh, I agree. So I think that there is a time where looking for the positive is helpful. But if that's the only thing that you are looking at and you're ignoring that there are real life hard situations that may need to be addressed and you're bypassing the authentic emotions that need to be processed and let out, that's when it becomes toxic positivity. Would you say that that's kind of what the common definition of it is?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Yeah.
that's a good way of putting it. Kind of when people want to find the positive in every situation as a way to, good vibes only. They don't want to allow people to have a really hard and heavy or painful experience because we just need to immediately, and this I think is part of it, is that we immediately need to find the silver lining in all situations. And we don't allow for the fact that things sometimes are just really hard.
Yeah. I remember,
But
oh,
go
I remember when Scott first died and myself, I was going through these situations or thinking of them and I was like, okay, well, at least I have on my arms and on my legs. At least I don't live in a third world country and I have a job and I'm able to, I was
Yeah.
trying to think myself of the silver linings because honestly, that was a major coping strategy throughout my life when I had gone through a lot of hard things. However, this is so much different. This is, again, the number one most high life event of stress,
Yeah.
100 out of 100 in that's that the medical community recognizes. So I think it requires a different mindset and just a realization that, like, yes, this is hard, it sucks, and we talk a lot about the word and. I think separating the word but and the word and is going to be really helpful with these sort of conversations.
Yeah. The hard thing is that they've done studies. I mean, there's tons of studies out there that show that when you look for the positive and when you search for things to be grateful for, you find them. And then your like depression, anxiety, all of those things improve, right? And it can really turn around your mindset. It can turn around your focus. It can help you be more aware of the things that are going right for you and kind of latch onto those. So it's so hard because we know that it can be such a therapeutic and a positive thing. But how do you use that in a way that's not negating the difficult path that you have to take? What do you think?
Well, I would like to turn that question back to you. Anita, how have you done those two things?
I think that one major thing is that, well, I can think of two things that I want to talk about. One is that there is a component to this of ownership, and that is that you are the only person who can search for the silver linings, or even before that step, decide if you want to look for the silver linings. Because when people are superimposing that on you, ooh, it
Yeah.
it's not good. I mean, you just want to slap them because you're like, you don't understand what I'm going through. You cannot say those things. But like you were saying, if I had come to a widow after her husband died and said, "At least you have all of your arms and your legs," like that would be the weirdest thing to say. But you found that to be something that you could focus on and actually be thankful for,
Yeah.
right? So there's an ownership factor. Like you have to be the one to decide if you want to look for those things, number one, and then to decide what those things are for yourself. And the second part of that, well, it's not really part of that, is that I really feel like there's a time element, don't you?
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
feel like
say that.
we really want to know right now, like, why is this going to be okay? Why is this going to benefit me? What's going to come out of this that's going to be good? How am I going to grow? And we want to know it right now because we want to feel better about the situation that we've been put in. And unfortunately, a lot of that is learned by looking back and not looking forward.
And also, can we talk about the event that has happened is so big that our bodies and our brains cannot process it
Yeah.
in the same amount of time like it would be able to process other things in our lives that have happened. It's too big. And so I think you're right on with the timing element. Um, think about how we are right now. Okay, I'm 3.5 years out, you're 2.5 years out. But remember when we were like 1 month out, 2 months out, and we were like, okay, well, I'm still alive and like I've been through some stuff before, but like I should be better right now. Like when does this get easier? And
Yeah.
now people that were further ahead of us are laughing. They're just like it takes time. But remember kind of the haste that you felt to try to like what can I do to move through this? Like it's a
Absolutely.
diet and an exercise plan or something.
It was a diet plan,
That's true.
not a purposeful one.
And
No.
an exercise plan for you. You just
Yeah.
went more. I went none.
Yeah. I do. I do. And I understand that that need, it just feels so heavy. It just feels so, like you said, haste. Like I need answers. I need to know that this is going to turn out okay and that I'm going to be a better person for it. Because, in all of the books and the motivational speakers and the all of those things, I feel like a lot of them focus on, and we talk about this all the time too, the middle. Like, this is what happened, and this is how I became great. And they don't focus on that middle part that's like where everything sucks and it's just really hard. And that's the part where you're finding yourself, but you haven't found yourself. And we want to just know the event that broke you and then who you found yourself to be at the end.
I think it was our friend Joy Kirsch, the fancy lady, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, that talked to us about the butterfly kind of allegory, where you know how a caterpillar is turning into a butterfly, but once it's in the cocoon, it
Like,
like
goo.
melds into goo. And so, but that part is the most transformative part of the butterfly journey, right? And so that's what we're in right now, but it sucks. Like, can you imagine being goo and you're like, where are my wings? Where are my beautiful wings and my antenna? Oh, where are my legs? Oh, I have no arms and no legs, actually.
Okay,
So,
here's a weird question though. Do you think that the butterfly knows what they're going to turn into? Or do you think that they're just like, what is going on right now? I am goo.
well, okay. How specific are we going to get? Because are we going to talk about the fact that they have insect brains and
I don't
not
know.
prefrontal cortexes?
I just wonder if, it would be easier for us to go through the goo phase if we knew that we would be a butterfly at the end. And so we're grasping to be the butterfly or to know that we're going to be the butterfly when we're going through the really hard goo part. Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
People that have gone through this before we have tell us that we're going to be better. So that's what we have to go by. So we're choosing to either believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that varies at different parts of the day, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's so hard because I have um this what's the right word? Like I believe strongly that when we look for the silver linings, that the universe brings us awareness of the things that are going right for us. And I also believe, and this might be a controversial thing to say, that there is always something to be grateful for, whether or not you um want to look for that. And I'm not saying that you need to be grateful for your husband dying, but there might be circumstances surrounding it that are things that you can be grateful for, even though there are some things that are just not positive. Like I think that we try and make everything positive, but there are things that are just not positive, you know.
But there's a way to not bypass and negate the hard stuff we're going through, like we've talked about earlier. So yeah, I agree with you. I think in everything there is possibility of silver lining, or it's a choice. And sometimes because we feel so terrible and we feel so traumatized, or we feel tired, or we feel depressed, or we feel like homicidal or suicidal, we can't make those two things connect. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I know that I've intellectually been like, I realized that I could be a lot worse off. I also feel like trash and I want to die. And
Yeah.
so sometimes the feelings don't coincide with what you're intellectually thinking. I mean, we're dealing with trauma, so it's a whole thing. But yeah, I believe that in any circumstance, you have the choice.
Yeah. Do you also think though that we need to be kind to ourselves if we don't feel like we can look for the silver linings in a situation?
Yes.
Yeah. I do.
Because it's like you're blaming yourself for how you feel, and that causes shame, and we all know that shame is not a useful emotion, especially in this circumstance. Like, my gosh, your person is dead and you're just trying to survive. So yeah, an element of giving yourself the care, and I guess just the space to know that that's normal. And I know I do this a lot. I once I had kind of gotten to a point where I wasn't crying every day and I was kind of functioning, when I would have a hard day or a hard season, or even a hard like feeling and thought and stuff, I would beat myself up. I wasn't even conscious of it. Like, I know this because I work with your sister doing life coaching. And so sometimes she like helps me pull thoughts, and she's like, why are you beating yourself up over this? I'm like, oh,
Oh,
I never thought of it that way. But it's like, I'm so hard on myself because I feel like I need to move forward and not have emotions and this and that. And so I personally beat myself up a lot, kind of subconsciously and consciously. And I think a lot of women and people in general might do that. So yeah, an element of being able to give yourself the space and the care to realize that you're a human and you've gone through something super, super hard, and you're not going to respond perfectly how you want to, and maybe you shouldn't. Maybe there is no perfectly, or maybe the way that you are dealing with this is perfect for you, and all of the experience counts in
yeah.
the long run.
Um, I was listening to David Kessler. He's like a grief, like a researcher, and they were talking about, you know, how we hate the 5 stages of grief or whatever,
Hate.
but they've added another stage, his research team, and that one's making meaning or finding meaning in the loss. And he was talking to somebody, or he was talking about an experience, and he was saying that people should not be expecting to find the meaning in like 2 or 3 months after their person dies or they're experiencing that grief. That making meaning is a long term type of a step or a stage. And while I don't have anything good to say about the stages of grief, I agreed with him in the fact that um, with time, you might be able to look back and make meaning out of what happened, you know, how you grew as a person or what things you were able to learn. But it's not something that you should expect yourself to do really, really quickly. And quickly in the death of your partner is a different timeline than maybe you might expect from yourself from other, you know, aspects of your life.
I agree.
And it's all a paradox. That's what's so hard about it, is that when you are feeling like trash, you could probably not modify, but mitigate some of those feelings with exercises in gratitude and positive thinking. But it's also not a way to just skip through the bad feelings either. So it's like my brain can't hold those things both at once sometimes.
Yeah. And one thing that's important to remember is that you can decide if you want to try and get more positive thoughts in your mind, or you can decide if you don't want to. So our minds are loops. We just have the same things going through over and over and over. And let's say you're feeling pretty bad and you've been in a bad slump for a long time, but intellectually you're like, okay, I have to do like at least try one thought that might kind of break the cycle. All you need is one little thought that just acts as a wedge so that
Mm-hmm.
the door can't fully close. You can keep like 99% of your like bad feelings, but maybe that 1% is just enough light so that you can maybe have a little bit of a release, or know that like life comes in seasons and we experience things in seasons. So it's hard. These are hard topics to talk about because they're not 5 steps. They're not black and white. They're not these nice little compact, complete packages. They're like, I thought you were gonna say the sixth stage of grief was that they were gonna say, put the 5 stages in a blender bottle and shake it.
No, because they like their stages of grief, and it's fine. I loved what you just said, though, that you can keep 99% of your thoughts and that you can just choose one thought and see what happens. My mom has kept a gratitude journal for like a long time, probably like 40 years. And she started it in a time when she was really depressed in her life and she was really having a hard time. So every day she just started writing down 3 things that she was thankful for, and it changed her life. Um,
Anita, you're
yeah,
40. And so I see how this coincides.
shoot. Probably it's probably true. But so I see the power of that in her life. And I've used that in my life as well when things are really hard, to say like, what is going well, what things are going my way. And it can change, like you said, that thought pattern of like, the world hates me, the universe hates me, there's no hope, there's no reason to be doing any of this. And then you go, oh, well, at least I have arms and legs, or whatever it is. And her rule was that she would never repeat anything twice. So she has volumes. I mean, like a whole room full of, she calls them her thankful journals. So
That's a good idea. Good job, Jean.
I
High
know
five.
my mommy is so amazing. But there's also this idea that you can't, you can force yourself to do it, but then you also can't force yourself to do it. You have to be in a place where you consent to try it. You consent to your own mind that you're going to try it and see what happens, and not try and force yourself to do it, but do it with curiosity and say, am I in a place to look for the things that are going well?
Do you want to hear what I've been doing lately? That's kind of my experiment right now.
Yeah.
So I have felt really depressed for most of this whole time, but I also like to do things and work towards feeling better and building my life up and all that stuff. And so I've become aware of when my trauma brain is taking over, and then when my maybe future self is kind of in my head. And so sometimes what I try and do is I try and figure out who is talking to my brain right now. Is it my current self that's just like, "Eh," or is it my future self? And sometimes when I don't feel like doing the things, I think, oh, well, I don't really care about myself right now, but I do care about my future self. I'm going to try and set my future self up for success tomorrow, which is tomorrow, right? Like
Yeah.
I could choose to go and like be all depressed in my bed and eat all the snacks and not prepare my little handouts that I have for the next day. Or I could be like, oh, well, I do care about myself tomorrow. So I'm going to set myself up for that. And then I'm going to go eat the snacks. And so I'm trying to be aware of they call it the primitive brain. What's my primitive brain versus my logical thinking brain?
Yeah.
And sometimes one wins and sometimes the other doesn't win, and vice versa. And it's a crapshoot, but it's interesting to be aware of those two factors, I think.
That's deep, Mel. Like, I care about my future self, so I'm going to do this for my future self. I have another question for you, though.
What?
So you were saying that widows who are, 10 years out or however long out tell us that we're going to become the beautiful butterfly. Do you think that it is easier to hear from other widows or other people who have walked this path, um, advice for looking for things to be grateful for?
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to a not widow.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I hate when people that are not widows tell me things. I'm like, you don't even know.
Anything, right?
You
You're
don't
like, don't even tell me
know.
that that apple is yummy because I don't believe you.
Yeah. You don't know my grief. Yeah. I kind of only trust people with those things that have been through significant life altering trauma. And that's where I'm at right now. And I'm sure that when I am 10 years out, I'll look back and be like, well, I know what they were going for. And like, I totally see it. But I'm still so far below even the like normal people functioning that tell those things to me that I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Maybe once I get a little bit higher to kind of that more normal functioning, and also like being able to integrate more into non-widow life, I'm sure I'll be more receptive. But no, don't tell me anything. Even sometimes if they are widows and they're just like, oh, I'm sorry, it just happened, but don't worry, it gets better. I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I
Yeah.
need you to meet me where I am right now, right this minute.
Well, and does that look like, so if you are a widow that's 10 years, I don't know why 10 years, we've decided that's the magical number. But if they say to you, like, yes, it is so hard what you're going through, but it is going to get better, is it in the delivery as far as like just not negating or brushing aside your experience now?
I think so. I mean, I would be more receptive if somebody first met me where I was at and validated it and then said the thing.
Yeah. Okay. I
What
like
about
that.
you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that if you get a sense that they understand that it is the worst, and I do think that we tend to forget. I mean, once we've passed that really hard thing, of course, we're like, I don't want to remember how hard it was. That's why they say you have more than one baby because you forget that it was like terrible to have a baby. It's kind of the same thing,
I don't
kind of.
know anything about that, but
Not at all,
I'll
but
take your word for it. Well,
yeah,
we just interviewed Josette Richardson Holley and we talked about this. What was the episode? 75.
75.
Episode 75, Josette Richardson Holley. She's been a widow for 17 years, I believe.
Yeah.
And she talked about gratitude and looking for those things and how it's been transformative for her. And she has lived through hell. And so at first when like I know that if somebody just straight jumps to the positive, that's where I'm like, I'm gonna check out. But because she's like, no, no, look at what I've been through. Like we I had 7 kids and my husband was never healthy. And then he died and came back to life. And then he died again. And then he had no life insurance. It's like, oh, this lady has been through it. This is not just somebody who had an awesome house on the hill and all the money
Yeah.
and maybe all the support. I mean, it's going to be hard for anybody, right? I'm not trying to like
Yeah.
compare
Yeah.
in that sort of way, but I'm more willing to listen to somebody talk about the light part of these things that's also experienced equivalent dark.
Because you feel like she's earned her ability to say that to you and have credibility and not just be like, everything's great, I'm an influencer, I don't tell you the truth about things, I only show you the great things that happen.
Yes. Well, and also like, I mean, kind of in our communities, Anita, people are like, well, just go serve, just be quiet and go serve. And I'm like, I don't, maybe that works in a lot of situations, but there are sometimes like in trauma where you're not able to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that if it's coming from somebody that doesn't get it, that could be a toxic positivity category. But if it is coming from somebody who does get it, that acknowledges the dark part, it's not bypassing,
Yeah.
you know?
See, it's such a fine, it's like we
It's
said,
a
it's not
fine piece of puke, is what it is. All the
not
chunks.
that's not what I was gonna say, but okay. Yeah. I was gonna say it's a fine line. There's not a lot of, it's gray, like we talked about before.
Or it's a
Barf.
big, fine bowl of spaghetti.
Okay. We've gone from barf to spaghetti to a line. Yeah. It's all a big bowl of mush. So
Yeah. Well, that was
there you
fun.
go.
What do you guys think? Tell us.
I'm so grateful to have been able to talk to you this day. And I am grateful that we are friends because our husbands died. But in all
You
seriousness,
too.
there have been good things that have come out of Jason dying. And even though I would rather have him back, I think it is beneficial for me to acknowledge those things
Yeah.
when I'm able to. So,
We're definitely different people than we were before.
yes.
And are hopefully on our way to becoming even better versions of ourselves so that we can help even more people
Yes.
and
Yeah.
like that. So,
We'd love to hear your thoughts on gratitude versus toxic positivity versus just
barf.
real life. Yeah. Let
Yes.
us.
If you are not in our Widow Wives Club yet on Facebook, please go to the link in our bio, click it, and join. And what else?
If you're a widow, this is a group
Oh,
exclusive
yeah.
for widows and widowers, or for people who've lost their person.
Yes. We also have a public Facebook page for everybody. But yeah, if you are specifically a widow or a widower, and the definition for those are somebody who has sustained partner loss. Doesn't matter if you're married, doesn't matter your orientation. It's all good. You all
Yes.
fit. Come with us.
Scotty is killing me. He's like,
Oh, look at
he's like,
his face.
"Oh," and then he's so cute. Okay, come join us. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel. I'm Scotty.
We're two young widows and Mel's emotional support Scotty, and we're trying to help you and us figure out widow we do now. Oh, Scotty.